Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Stay. Welcome to Coloring Bliss and the Battle of the Watercolor Pencils. This video has been in the works for over 3 months and I'm so excited to finally be presenting it to you because what I'm going to do is take 26 different kinds of watercolor pencils and narrow them down. I'm going to take them through their paces, put them through some tests, swatch them, and show you which are my favorite, the top 3, and which are my least favorite, the bottom 3. And we're going to help you decide which ones should you buy, which ones are the best for colorists. That's the difference. In this video, we're going to talk about which of these pencils perform the best for colorists. We've got so much to show you, so many things to teach you, so let's get started. Okay, so one of the first questions you're going to have is which of the many watercolor pencils did we choose to include in the battle of the watercolor pencils? So right here in front of me, I have all of the watercolor pencils swatched and I want to show you which ones we picked. And I want to tell you that only 2 of the lines of watercolor pencils were gifted to us, and they were gifted to us by fans. So we purchased all of them and none of this is sponsored. So let me show you which of the wonderful watercolor pencils we picked. So this is a swatch book that we make here at coloringbliss.com. If you're interested in a swatch book like this, check out the link in the video description. Okay, I'm going to flip to the section where the watercolor pencils begin, and I'll just flip through this really quick and show you all the beautiful swatches that we created to test and see how they perform. And this is on watercolor paper. So the first ones you're going to see are the Arteza watercolor pencils, the Expert line, and there's 120 here that are swatched out, and they go all the way down to the bottom of this page. The next line you're going to see are the Arteza woodless, and these are swatched alphabetically by brand name, and then we're going to be presenting them to you a little bit differently, not alphabetically, but they are swatched alphabetically. The next are the Brazils. We have 2 lines by Brazil. We have the Expression Aquarelle and the Design Aquarelle. So these are the Expressions and these are the Design Aquarelle down here. Okay, next up are the mighty Caran Dash, very fancy pencils. I'm excited to show them to you. We have 2 lines by them. We have the Museum Aquarelle up here and the Super Color Soft right here. Then we have Castle Arts, a good, more budget-friendly set, and that's these right here, and it goes on to the next page. All of these are Castle Art right here. Then we have Crayola. I have a 12-pack, so these are the Crayola pencils right here. And then into some of my very favorite, and this brings up another topic here. Some of these pencils are technically not watercolor, they're more water-soluble, and we'll address that along the way. These are the Derwent Inktense pencils. You're going to see how beautiful these colors are. All of these are Inktense down to here. Okay, now here's another set of pencils that are technically not watercolor. These are the Derwent metallic pencils. And the final set of pencils that are technically not watercolor are the Derwent Graphitint pencils right here. Okay, and then here are Derwent's actual watercolor pencils right here. And then we move into the beautiful Faber-Castell. Those are the Gold Faber Aqua pencils right here. Another set by Faber-Castell are the Albrecht Dürers right here. And then the Albrecht Dürer Magnus. Can't wait to show you these ones. Okay, and here is a set here that you can pick up at a lot of different, like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, the General's Kimberly watercolor pencils right here. These ones are very budget-friendly, Low Cornell watercolor pencils, and Pentel. Both of these are more of a budget-friendly set. Okay, this is the rest of the Pentel right here. And then here is Prismacolor's watercolor pencils. Although they are changing their names, depends on when you bought them, whether they're called watercolor or water-soluble right here. And then here is our most budget-friendly set, the South Sun. I have 150 of those, so it starts right here. These are all the South Sun, all South Sun right here. They also go by a couple different names, so we'll talk about that when we get to those pencils. Okay, and all of this is South Sun right here. Now we get to a different brand. This is the Spectrum Noir pencils. And then we have two offerings by Staedtler. We have Staedtler Ergosoft right here, and the rest of the Ergosoft. And then this is the Staedtler Carrot Aquarelle, I think. Is it Carrot? Carrot? Aquarelle right here. And then Winsor Newton has some watercolor pencils. And right now, I think you can only get those at Michael's. And they're right here. And then our final option for our Battle of the Watercolor Pencils are the Xenicolor right here at the bottom, very bottom. Okay, so that, oh, there's a couple more. Xenicolor right here. Okay, so that's all of our swatches. I'm going to roll some really fun footage right now while I'm talking, and you can look at the beautiful process of swatching. First, we laid them all down dry, and that was a long, arduous process, some of which I did live so that you can check that out. I'll put links to all of that video footage here in this video description. And then the really fun process of activating them with water. And this is where I really started to learn about these pencils. Now, this process took a ton of hours, the dry swatching and the wet swatching. It was a really long process, but it was well worth the time that I put into it because I learned and got a good feel and started to see a few front runners starting to pop their heads out. Like the General's Kimberly pencils have already started to be something of an interesting pencil. It's more of a budget-friendly set, but it was performing surprisingly well. So I'm excited to put them through the tests. So now that you've seen the beautiful footage of the swatching and how much fun that is, maybe I've gotten you even more excited to see how they're going to perform on the worksheets. So let me show you what these worksheets look like and what we're going to do for each set of the pencils that we have. So this is the worksheet that we have created. I know a lot of you are going to ask right away, can I get this worksheet so that I can try these tests at home? And the answer is yes. There's a link in the video description where you can download this. Now, it's in the premium library at coloringbliss.com. That means that you need to be one of our paid members, either a colorist, apprentice, or a partner. So come on over and learn about that. But basically, the lowest paid level is only $5 a month, and you'd have access to this worksheet and a whole bunch of other worksheets and over 500 coloring pages that you can download and enjoy. So well worth the $5. Plus, it supports me and keeps me making big videos like this for you. Okay, so let's look at this worksheet. So every single one of the brands that I'm going to be showing you, I have a whole bunch of information that I'll be able to share with you. Their brands, how much they are per pencil. As of April 10th is when I collected their costs, usually on either Amazon or on dickblick.com, and these will all be US dollars, so you get an idea of their costs. Then I'm going to tell you things like how many pencils are available in each set. Are they available open stock? Is there light fast information available? What shape and appearance are the pencils? And are there any unique features? And then there's an area for final notes that I'll fill out after I've done all these tests. And then the way that we do these tests is by their numbers. So there's numbers 1 through 11. So there's 11 steps to this worksheet. And then at the very end, we're going to give them a score. And then we're going to take all of the scores from the different 26. And that's how we're going to get the top 3 and the bottom 3. So to show you how this worksheet works, I think we should just dive in, and I will take you through one of the brands and show you how this works. Okay, so before I dive in and get started on this very first brand, let me explain to you how I decided what order to present these to you. What I've done is I've taken all of the 26 brands and I did research on their current costs as of April 10th, 2020. And that's US dollars on Amazon or dickblick.com. And then we did a per pencil cost. And we tried to do it for like a 24 set was the goal. Some of them, like the South Sunset, comes only in 150, so we had to stick with per pencil costs in the 150 set and came up with the least expensive to the most expensive. Okay, so over the last little while we have worked through the South Sun pencils and completed its worksheet. So it was a really good dry run, and now I'm ready to demonstrate for you how this worksheet works using the Crayolas. So let me first show you what a finished worksheet looks like and what you can look forward to here. This is the South Sun worksheet, all completed. So we learned a lot, and I'm going to show you how each of these tests work and why we do them. But you can see how the South Sun looks and what all the testing is going to do. And in the end, what we'll have is some final notes over here that tells us about my feelings and what we learned as we went through the pencils. For instance, the metallic ones aren't water soluble. They don't layer very well, but then they have low pigmentation. You have to scrub to release the binders. That's kind of the things that we made note of. And then down here we give it a score. And so in the end, they ended up with a 1.5 star score. So as we get all 26 done, we'll have scores for all of them, and then that's how we can come up with the top 3 and the bottom 3. So let me take you through the worksheet now. This is the Crayola worksheet here, so it already has a few notes on it that I've gathered over the last few months, including the cost as of April 10th. So this is the cost per pencil on a set of 24, I believe, for the Crayola, these guys right here. So let's do the tests. I'm so excited. So what we'll do first is show you the swatches for the Crayolas. So flip alphabetically into here till I find the Crayola, which are right here. So you can see how they swatch out, all 12. I only have a 12 pack right here. So you can see those. I'll move them up a little bit. And then if I had made any notes about them, for instance, up here it says some were scratchy, some are low pigmented. That was the Castle Arts up here. So sometimes I have notes, so I would look back at those. So as I was swatching the Crayola, there was nothing out of the ordinary for me to make note of, so that's good. Okay, so now come over here and we can get started. Okay, now I have sitting here next to me my business partner and husband, Steve.
Hello.
We've got 4 pencils that we're using, and what I've done is made note of the color names and numbers. For Crayola, it's not too confusing. Their blue is called blue, red is called red, yellow is called yellow, and then we're also going to be using the color orange down here for step number 5. So we're going to start here in number 1, and that is, we're going to use blue for number 1. And all we have to do for number 1 is color it in fully dry. And what I'm going to be doing is paying attention to the way the pencil feels as it colors. Like I said, these tests are not just, they were designed for a colorist to test a watercolor tool. So I am not just paying attention to the way a watercolor tool works, but how does a watercolor tool work for a colorist? So that's one of the things I'm paying attention to. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in circle number 1 and circle number 2. And I guess we could just go ahead and fill in number 3. So let's just go ahead and do that. And so you know, I'm not pushing hard. I don't want to hurt the texture of this watercolor paper. Kind of following the rules of what a colorist would do when they're coloring with a color pencil. You don't push hard. You're just trying to fill in the area with your pencil. Okay, we've got those 3 circles all fully colored in with our blue. And what I'm going to do next is I've got my number 8 round watercolor brush. And I've got a paper towel and some clean water in a jar over here next to me on my right. And I'm going to activate number 2 and 3. There's on step number 11, we come back and do another test here on this circle, but we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a link to this brush in the video description if you're interested in this watercolor brush. And Steve, would you mind telling them about the paper I'm using?
You bet. So we spent, boy, probably $200 or $300 on paper. This was like a year ago. We have our Bliss Partners membership group, and we do coloring workshops. well, a year ago, in fact, it was April, we did a workshop on watercolor media. And I had this goal to find the ultimate watercolor paper for colorists where you could actually print on it, print your coloring pages. That was quite a long process.
Yeah.
And I never... most everything we tried just didn't work. It's hard to find something that'll work together. So ultimately, though, we did land on this paper. There's also another paper that we recommend. And what we were looking for specifically is we wanted a true watercolor paper, meaning it had to have sizing. Then we also wanted a watercolor paper that could be printed on. And that's where everything got really tricky, because printed on with what? Laser, inkjet?
Yeah.
The sizing of the paper can repel the ink in some cases on an inkjet printer.
And the texture.
Yeah, and the texture on both inkjet and laser. Sometimes if you have too much texture, the toner or the ink never actually gets down into the valleys of that texture.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, we're using cold press, which means it'll have, most cold press paper has that texture,
that nice texture that we like.
So anyway, it was quite the process. And what we ultimately discovered is there isn't currently any company selling 8.5 by 11, that's US letter, watercolor paper with sizing that can be printed on using an inkjet or a laser printer. And so instead what we do is in the video description, I'll put links to our recommended paper that we found performed really well, actually. But you can only buy them in pads on Amazon of 9 by 12. And then you can either cut them down to 8.5 by 11 yourselves, or you can take them to, Office Max or some kind of office store and they can cut them for you. We also sell in our print shop. We buy big, pads. We go through the process of having, big sheets, having them cut down, and we sell them in packs of 50. So you can also buy them from our print shop, already cut down to 8.5 by 11. And that's what we're using here. We have laser printers. That's what we recommend if you're going to print on watercolor paper. Laser generally does better.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So links in the video description for all
maybe
that.
Maybe more info than what you wanted. But.
No, it was really good. While he was talking and we got to hear all of that, what I've done is I have colored with dry blue, red, and yellow up here. We'll come back and activate this here in a minute. And then also with my dry yellow, I have colored the first step here on number 5. So number 5, the test we're doing right here is to see how do these perform as a dry color pencil. So if you were to purchase any of these color pencils and use them just as a standard color pencil, could they work? Then you could use these as a 2-for-1 type product, not just as a watercolor medium, but as a normal color pencil. So how we're going to test this is using Jennifer's rule of blending thirds, and we're going to see with this step, with Jennifer's rule of blending thirds, you do a lot of layering and a lot of blending, and this will give us a good feel for how these pencils lay down. So you need 3 pencils for this step. We're using yellow, orange, and red, and so the first step is you color the entire rectangle with yellow. Second step, you bring in your orange and you color this 2/3 with orange. You want to do some blending over here, so less pressure and sort of feather it out over here. And then you're going to do more pressure, kind of a thicker, heavier layer over here with your second layer. So this is second layer with orange. Jennifer's rule of blending thirds will pretty much guarantee you a great blend, no matter what kind of color pencil you're using, cheap or expensive, and you can bring together some pretty crazy colors. So give Jennifer's rule a try sometime and see if it helps you with your coloring. It's a great way to learn how to blend, and then once you get a hold of how you can blend, then you can skip some of the steps in this trick as you learn. Okay, then the next step is you go to your red and you're going to do this third of the rectangle. Again, tapering off the pressure over here so you get a nice blend over here, and then harder pressure back here. So hopefully what you're going to end up with is a deeper red and then blending out to yellow over here. That's the master goal. So by now we've got 3 layers of color pencil going on this far right side. So now as a colorist, I'm paying attention to how these Crayola pencils are performing. Do they feel like they're just sort of skating on top of each other at this point? Do I still feel like layers are going down? Am I getting a good pigment lay down? These are the kinds of questions I'm paying attention to as the tester. So if you do decide to come and download this worksheet, that's the kind of things as you test your own pencils you can look at and feel for. Okay, and I'm going to lean in just a little bit more so we make sure we keep a good dark red right here. Good. Now we'll go back to orange. And again, we're going to focus on this 2/3. So now this is 4 layers of color pencil right here. And kind of work on transitioning this section here with the orange. And lighter pressure right here. So we're not going to activate this particular test with water because, again, the idea of this test is, will these perform as a dry medium if you want to use it for that purpose? Okay. Finally, you go to your yellow and going to color over the entire rectangle. This brings together everything. So right here we've only got 2 layers of color pencil. Down here, I've lost track. 7, 8 layers of color pencil by the time we get down here with the yellow. A lot of layers. So you're going to really feel a difference. We did the South Sun, and it was about layer 3 that I started to feel that skating sensation where the fillers just kind of...
You just fill in all those cracks. And
yeah, and they just won't... No more pigment will lay down, and it's really frustrating. These are doing decent.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like, I can see a difference between the deepness of that red versus the South Sun red.
Yeah. And it's hard because it's not the same color red. We did our best to try to get similar reds, but we're working with a pack of 12 here versus South Sun had a pack of 150. So we had more variations in the red to pick from. So again, we're not comparing that particular red to the other red, but what we're looking at is like saturation, the intensity of the color, how easily does it lay down, how does it feel, how easily does it activate. These are all the things we're asking as we move through this.
So what did you think of that as a dry color, a dry blend? I mean,
it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's activate up here in number 4 now. Let's see what this does. So here what we're testing is we're going to activate just a small amount of dry colored down pigment and pull that pigment across this entire large rectangle. We're going to see what it looks like as it comes across a black line. Does it leave behind a white film? That's one of the questions we're looking for, like a milky film. And then does it have enough pigment in this small little rectangle to tint or color the entire white rectangle? And if so, how much? How much color is it going to pull across? Let me give you a little reference here. Here's the South Sun, and you can see what it did, which was not much, which we didn't expect much because it's a really cheap brand. So let's see what Crayola does. Okay.
So Crayola was the second least expensive.
Right. So this was number 2 in our list from least expensive to most expensive per pencil cost.
At about 24 pencils.
Per pack, yeah.
Yeah. If that makes sense.
I hope it makes sense. Yeah. And prices change wildly, you guys. I did a price, I gathered all their prices in February, and then I went back and gathered them again in April, and some of them had doubled in cost. So
they're always going up and down.
Yeah, if you're watching this 6 months from now, this whole cost is probably totally different again. So we had to have some way to organize it.
That's just one small part of what we're testing.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. We're going to activate blue. And I'm going to just, let's see, one dip of the brush, and then I'm going to give it a good wipe here to activate as much as I can. And then we're going to pull it out across. Again, we're on watercolor paper, so it should float and move pretty easily here. And try to get as much of that pigment out across that rectangle as we can. And then we'll let it dry and see how it looks. Okay, there's one. Oh no. I can't wait for you. I keep thinking this, but I can't wait for you guys to see some of the higher end, more expensive.
Professional quality.
Again, with art tools, usually you get what you pay for, you guys. So this is a children's quality line of tools. So you're going to get what you pay for here, which is a water-soluble tool. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But I'm not going to make any excuses for it. It's not that amazing. It's not going to like change your world here. Like some of them are going to change your world. Now that red was better.
Wow.
And this is why we're testing multiple colors. I didn't want to just test one color because as I was swatching, I learned really quickly that ever so often there would be one pencil that you would be like, wow, that pencil did really well. I'm impressed. And then you'd hit the next pencil and nothing. It would just die. Like you hit it with water and it would almost erase. And you'd be like, but the last one was beautiful. Why can't you get it right? So this is exactly why I wanted to do multiple colors so you could see, well, the blue was good, or but the red, okay, red, I'm impressed. So let's see what yellow does. Yellow is typically pretty sad, you guys, but let's see. Let's see. Get it nice and wet, and then let's pull it out and across. Again.
Yeah. Wow.
Pull it all really the way out. You know, Crayola, typically they do a decent job.
Yeah, for the price. Yeah.
For the price, yeah. Okay. So that takes us through step 5. So now we move on to step 6, which is actually right here. So we're going to use red and purple for this. And what we're going to do for coloring on this one is color the blue out to this line right here. So you're going to color the 2/3 this way with blue. And this is going to show how it activates when you blend two pencils together. But there is a lot to learn with watercolor pencils. So if this is like exciting you and you're learning a lot here and you want to learn more about how to use watercolor pencils, then I highly recommend you come check out the Bliss Partners, because this step right here, I think we spend maybe a whole workshop on how to do this blending thing.
Well, and all of the different
variables.
Yeah, that go into it.
It's a lot. And it's really fun to learn, and it takes some practice. What we're doing here is not necessarily to get a perfect blend. It's more just to see how it's going to blend. So if you want to learn how to get a good, beautiful blend, it takes participating in a workshop to learn that. So yeah, that workshop is really fun because, again, it's more about colorists learning how to use the tools. Where most of the information I keep running into on YouTube and the internet are how watercolorists use these tools, which is really good. I get a lot of knowledge from it, but it's not as applicable for colorists. Okay. that one is ready to activate. So let's just go ahead and activate it right now. So we're going to activate between, let me show you, this line and that line is where we're going to activate it. So we're going to see a little bit of the blue and the red, and then where they come together. That's what we're going to see. And just how it all does its thing. So again, you dip into clean water, knock off most of the water, and then let's see, how do I want to do this? I could either, I think that's how I did it with the South Sun, was straight down. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I do this consistent. So I need to make a final decision. I think straight down is the best way. So yeah, so I'm going to go, yeah, okay. Got to make sure I'm consistent from all of these. So yeah, straight down is how we're going to do this. We're going to go across and come down. I'm not going to do a lot of scrubbing because I want to see what it does without really scrubbing it.
Kind of one pass there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And then we'll just let it sit and soften, let the water soften it. Okay, next test while that's softening is up here on number 7. Actually, we're going to use quite a lot of water here. And make sure I'm in the shot for you. And what you're going to do is really lay down a lot of water into that circle. This is just clean water. And then grab, I think we used blue on the South Sun, yep. And then grab your blue pencil, it's dry, and go straight into that water and color this in. This is another way to color with these pencils. So I just want to see how it acts this way. Okay, once you finish coloring this way, make sure you always wipe off the tip of your pencil because you don't want water to sit on that tip and it'll sort of mushify. It'll keep breaking down those binders, so wipe off all that water. Okay, now remember, if you do want to do this worksheet, to come and download it off of coloringbliss.com. It is part of the paid membership. I think I've mentioned that before, but I want to be clear about that. So it's only $5 to become a Bliss colorist, and that supports me and keeps me making videos like this for you. Okay, so now paintability. What we're going to do again with this blue pencil, get your brush wet. You need a little bit more water than what we have been using, and then touch right to the tip of that pencil and kind of work that brush around, and what it's doing is loading up paint and pigment onto the brush. And then you can come down and paint onto this circle.
Seeing the order that you're doing these makes me wonder if I need to change the numbers around a little bit. We'll have to see. So,
oh yeah, because I should have gone down here
that's
next.
Okay. I mean, but so I'm just saying it now so that if they download it in the future.
Oh, and there's different numbers.
And after you've gone through and done 26 of these, we may change up the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, that's true, because 7 and now 8. Okay, now for this one, we take clean wet water again and flood the whole rectangle with our clean water. And it's always hard to see if you've got enough water, but you want it to be pretty wet, because what we're going to do is drip drops of wet paint from this blue onto each of those little dotted circles. And what we're going to do is let that paint sort of bloom and move on that water like that. And what we're watching for, oh, come on.
Oh yeah, that's hard, huh?
What we're watching for is how well the paint moves. So you don't want to disturb it. This is moving really well. So we don't want to disturb it. Just let it sit there and do its thing. It's almost moving too well. I think I got the rectangle a little too wet. So I need to be cautious of that moving forward. Okay, now we have one more little test to do.
I saw you add your little... That's what's nice about watercolor. See, it comes right up.
We can fix that little oopses. Oh, and it's because I didn't dry this off either. I didn't follow my own advice. Okay, now let's find a dry, clean spot here, if we can. There's a good clean spot. Now we're going to get this wet with clean water, and then we're moving on to our final step, which is step 11, and that's to check the liftability of the pigment off of the watercolor paper. So what we're going to do is wet paper towel, touch it down onto this, count to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, give it a slight twist, and then lift up and see how much we were able to lift up. So we want to just test the liftability is what we're doing to see how much can come up, which we got more off than we did with the South Sun. You can see how much we got off. So, I just want to go back and keep lifting, but that's not the test here. We're checking for liftability is what we're doing here. So, all right, this poor thing I got way too much water. I'm really tempted to...
Better leave it.
I better leave it, Jennifer. Leave it. Okay, so now while that's drying, what we need to do is I'm going to write a few little notes up here, my feelings about what I've just gone through, which is basically I want to make notes how it felt as I colored dry, how I felt about it as the water hit it. Did it feel like I had to really scrub hard to get the binders to relax and let go of the pigment? These are all the things I need to now put down onto this piece of paper. And then we're going to give it some stars. And try to be as impartial as possible. And that's I'm just going to fail, but
it's so
me.
Subjective.
It's my
so
subjectiveness. So here we go. Okay. So I'm going to write, not super impressive pigmentation, impressive pigmentation. Let's see. I don't know what else to say. I'm not that wowed.
It's not like anything really stood out strong, but it also didn't go really bad either.
Right. So I think I'll just leave it at, I'll just say average. Average school grade. That's probably what this is. Value. Now, we've talked about value, Steve and I. What does value mean? Is it really cheap, like cost-wise, or does it mean like, because a value could be something that you spend a lot of money on, but it lasted forever. So in the end, it was a good value. So when we talk about value here, it's only 46 cents per pencil, and you're getting not that great pigmentation. Will I reach for these pencils again? I think that's a really important value question. I spent money on them, so...
Are they going to go on your shelf and you'll never touch them again, or...
Yeah. Would I recommend them as a good value to someone?
I think what I'm seeing here is that they're decent, right?
Yeah, they have a good price.
So from that value perspective, they're great.
And they're readily available. Like, I think you can get them like at Walmart, for instance. So that ups them in my value status. Where some of these brands, you can't get them anywhere except maybe on Amazon,
And while the pigmentation isn't great, it also is better than like the South Suns.
Availability.
Now, how many colors can you get these in?
24 is
just either 12 or 24, so it's not like you can get a whole lot of colors.
But that's okay. I mean, with watercolor, you don't need a ton of colors.
Yeah. if they mix well.
Yeah.
Which is what that number
This
6
one's
and 10.
showing that they mixed quite
got
well.
somewhat of a
I got
violet there,
in
yeah.
there. So I'm gonna give it a 3.
That's what I was
for
thinking
value.
too. Yeah.
Because the price is good. They work decent. They're in no way an artist quality, because we're going to show what artist quality is eventually, but they're a good value for a school grade. Maybe that's what it is, a good way to say it. They're a good value for a school grade.
Yeah.
Dry, feel, and blendability. They are definitely felt decent. So I think I'll give them a 2-star. I didn't hate coloring with them dry.
They seem to blend okay.
Yeah.
Like, did they layer okay? Or did you get that skating really quick?
No, not like the South Sun. They didn't skate like the South Sun.
So do you think maybe it's a 3, or do you think...
So I guess 3 would be average, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give them an average score. I guess that's a good way for me to think, is average.
Yeah.
Ease of breakdown, I would say average. I didn't have to scrub hard to make these break down.
Nice.
And coloring these little stars is... We're going to have to change how I do this.
I guess you could just do the 1. The 3. And not have to do the 1, 2, and the 3.
Performance when wet. Average, I would think. Nothing to be super excited about.
But they did what they're supposed to do. They're watercolor, and they broke down, and they moved, and
they did things. They did things. Vibrancy, they're not really great. So either a 2 or a 1.
Well, South Sun is definitely a 1 on vibrancy, so this would have to be probably a 2.
Yeah. Yeah, they're better than... I hear our cat outside the door. He's like, why do you have the door shut? Okay, appearance after drying. Now, this one's not totally dry yet. The dots that are dry, they did quite well. If you look, like, can you see how these are all grainy? Let's see, I don't want to okay, that's dry, good. I'm going to give you guys a little... I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so the far left dots are dry. And if you can see, I'm going to try to hold it still, but the far left of the top ones, I don't know if you can see the graininess and how, you see how where I dropped it in, it just stayed. And that's that, I think it's the binders.
Oh, yeah.
I think because it's just, remember how I said with the South Sun I had to scrub to get the pigment to let go? I think that's what's happening, and they just went and stayed there in the water. Where here, you drop it in and then they go, oh, and it just lets go. The binders just let the pigment go, and that's why I wanted to do this test, because it's a good way to show that the binders just let go, you know? So, and yeah. Yeah, and look up here too. The difference between where they were, this just looks more pleasing. This looks more chalky. Yeah, it's interesting. Even between cheap brands, you can see the differences between cheap brands. It's very interesting. So appearance after drying, I'm going to give it average 3
or even a 2.
Or a 2.
But they're not.
It's hard because yeah.
You know, I guess if you're up here looking at those, do you like the look of it?
The vibrancy's not good. Yeah. It's so washed out, but it looks nice. I mean, yeah, average. It's the vibrancy that wasn't good, so 3.
Okay.
All right, so then what we're going to do is we take, and this is a 3-star, 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 2-star, and a 3-star. So there are 6 different criteria. So we take and add up all the stars. Steve's doing the math right now.
So
and then we
17,
take 17 stars and divide it by 6 criteria, and that will give us our total star.
So 2.8.
A 2.8 star score. So it's a little bit more than a 3. I mean, almost a 3. That's where I think I will take the time to fill in all the stars will be down here. And then that will save me some time on the other worksheets. Or maybe later I could come in and color in the stars. All right, so that's how this worksheet works. And like I said, you can come and download this worksheet and use it for your own watercolor pencils and put them through the test and print it out on both watercolor paper and on cardstock, because it will act totally different on cardstock and give you a feel for how, if your coloring page is in a coloring book that's not watercolor paper, you're going to want to know how this all works on watercolor paper, on cardstock too. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, we've 2 down and 24 more to go. So we're gonna hit the music montage and let you sit back and enjoy watching me go through a whole bunch of these. And then at the end, we'll have the top 3 and the bottom 3, and I can kind of bring you up to speed on the final thoughts and feelings. And if there's some other moments that I feel like, wow, they need to see what's happening, I'll stop the music montage and bring you in on it. So let's get going. The next one I get to do is Castle Arts. Okay, Castle Art, you're up next. Do you own some of these watercolor pencils, or maybe you are going to purchase some now that you are watching this video and you're wondering how to color with them? Well, we have a Bliss Partner program where I have been teaching all kinds of really fun techniques, how to color with them wet on wet, how to do it dry on dry, how do you use these pencils as colorists. There's a lot of resources out there on how to use these pencils as watercolorists, but I want to teach you how to use them as colorists. So click on the link in the video description, come learn about becoming a partner. We have over 40 hours of different kinds of coloring tutorials, including a new series all about coloring with watercolor pencils. Join us. Okay, as I was doing the testing here, this Red Berry by Spectrum Noir Aqua Blend, the tip broke again. I was having problems back here when I was swatching the Spectrum Noirs. Both the Regal Blue and the Red Berry were breaking, and it has broken again. I wanted to make a little mention of this, that when you are working with your watercolor pencils, if they ever do break like this, save those tips. This is all fully activatable pigment, so all these tips here broke during the swatching process from various brands. So they're not all Spectrum Noir. There's a couple Spectrum Noir, this one probably, and a couple of the blues, and then there's other brands here that broke on me while swatching. So I'm saving all these tips, and what we can do with them is drop them into a little bit of water, activate them, and then paint with them. So if you have this same problem that I'm having, make sure you save them. It's good pigment that you can use. Okay, so I'm just going to resharpen this up, and then I can keep working along with my tests. I'm using a hand sharpener. This one's by Coom. Just look for a good hand sharpener with a nice sharp German blade. That's the best way to sharpen pencils like this, especially if they have a brittle core to it. And then just hold the pencil still and move the blade around the pencil. That's the proper technique to protect the core as much as possible, especially if you have a pencil, like I said, with a brittle core or a really soft core like a Prismacolor Premier pencil. That's your best bet. There are tips and tricks on how to mend pencils that have cores that break on you. You can look those up, Google those, and good luck with those problems. Sometimes you are just stuck with a problem pencil. That's one problem with some of these sets, where you can't get replaced pencils, where there's no open stock availability. You're just stuck. This one looks like it's an off-centered pencil, so I'm going to have to do some carving to get this back to where it's a usable pencil. So there you can see I've just carved the one side that was off-centered, got more of that wood off, and I'm just going to have to be really careful with this pencil moving forward. It's always going to be a problem pencil. I can see the wood is split. It's just a problem pencil. You run into these from time to time. So I'll probably put a piece of washi tape or mark it with a Sharpie, so I always remember when I reach for this one to be extra careful with this guy right here. Okay, back to the testing. Okay, it's day 2 of filming the tests for the watercolor pencils, and I'm in a different category of these watercolor pencils that I wanted to address, and we're calling these the specialty water soluble. Now, I wanted to include these in the battle of the watercolor pencils because they're kind of important, and as you're shopping for watercolor pencils, you're going to run into these. So I've got some metallic ones. They happen to all be Derwent, but you're going to find these in different brands as well. So I've got some metallic ones by Derwent, these ones here. So they're technically not watercolor. I've got these ones here by Derwent. They're the Graphitant. So these are graphite base with a tint on them, but they're still water soluble. Really cool pencils. Highly recommend these. They're really neat. And then the final category I had to include because anytime you have a discussion about water soluble watercolor pencils, everybody asks about them, and that is the Derwent Inktense. I don't have a case for them, the actual case, because most of my Derwent Inktense pencils I have purchased open stock or were donated to me by awesome fans. So I have mine stored here in this global art case, and they are amazing. So technically they're considered an ink, not a watercolor, but they are carried by a water-soluble filler or a binder. Thank you, Steve. So that's the 3 pencils that we have that are technically not watercolor, but I did the same thing that I did with all the watercolor pencils, filled out the worksheet so that we can look at how they performed. The metallic ones are really fun because they have a metallic sheen. Hopefully you can see that. Actually, let's just flip the camera, Steve, and I can show them real quick the results of these because they're going to come up kind of low. At least this one's going to come up low in score because it's not a really great watercolor pencil. But if you're looking for something with a metallic sheen, hopefully you can see that. Here I did on one side, I really leaned in hard and did, what's the word?
Burnish.
A burnish. Thank you, Steve. I did a burnish on one side and light pressure on the other so you can see the difference, and then when you fully activate it. So they actually have quite a vibrant payoff when you get them wet. So these are really fun to play with, but as far as a metallic pencil, they're not my absolute favorite. I believe it's the Faber-Castell pencils that make a metallic line that I love. They're not water soluble though, so you get kind of a 2-for-1 here, metallic and water soluble. So that's the one in our specialty water soluble category. The second one are the Graphitant by Derwent. These I think are one of Steve's favorite pencils. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I love those colors.
Again, you get this kind of shine to it because it's the graphite shine. Again, I did a burnish pressure on one side and normal pressure on the other so you could see the differences. Look how different it looks when it's activated by water. The tint really comes out. The graphite gets washed away so there's no more shine left and you just get this tint. It comes in sets of 12 and 24. The 24 set is my favorite. You don't get any really good yellows, which makes sense because when you mix in gray into any kind of pigment, you're not going to get really shiny, bright, vibrant colors. You're going to get these really neat, vintagey type feeling colors. Really fun to play with, but very different. They don't layer well. So as a colorist, they're not... You know, you can't do a portrait really with them because as you layer and blend, just the graphite just comes up. That's like the main attraction in it. The more you layer and layer and layer, the graphite really comes up. Same over here. The more I layered, then you hit it with water and then it just becomes muddy and strange. So they kind of, their best shining moment is when they're on their own. When you start mixing colors, they just sort of poop out, for lack of a better word. So yes, I would highly recommend the Graphitant, but they're not going to score high here in this battle of the watercolor pencils. The third contestant with the specialty water soluble is the mighty Derwent Inktense, which I highly recommend. Even if you just get like a 24 pack, that would give you some really fun stuff to play with. Look at the color payoff I mean, these are amazing. Technically, when they are bone dry after you've activated them, they're supposed to be permanent like ink. Now, I've never had that experience with them. I've never had them go permanent on me. Comment below. Do you use Inktense pencils and have had them go permanent once they go dry and fully activated? I've never had it happen.
Maybe if you left it for a week and came back or something?
Maybe so, but I've never had that experience. But look at this. As a colorist, I was able to make them layer and blend and do beautiful things. We've got a beautiful bloom happening. We've got a dry blend that when we hit it with water, beautiful things happened. So as a watercolor pencil, it's doing some amazing things. So I'm glad it's a contender in our watercolor pencils. So I still have a few more tests to do. I'm going to finish up my tests and then we're going to come back and give you some more final thoughts, the top three, the losers, and we'll finish up here. Okay, we've got the Albrecht Dürer Magnus pencils here that I am including in the Battle of the Watercolor Pencils. They are the same as the Albrecht Dürer by Faber-Castell. The Magnus line is just a bigger version. So you get, let me tell you the core size on the Magnus. The Magnus is a 5.3 millimeter core, which is a massive core. You get so much product in one pencil. It's pretty amazing. Here's the two pencils side by side. Really exciting pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and do the test, but it should come out pretty much the same as the Albrecht Dürer test. Pretty cool product. Let me show you the case inside and the really nice brush that it came with as well. Look at those beautiful pencils. And this big, beautiful number 10 round brush that it came with. Really nice brush. Pretty fun. All right, let's do the tests. Okay, here is the artist grade watercolor pencils by Caran, and they have a pretty nice box too, just kind of like the Luminance box. It's cardboard, but it has this really neat high density foam inside and a very special slot for each pencil to live in. So that's really nice. Keeps them, so if you do drop the box, it will protect the cores even more. So thought you'd be interested in seeing that before I go ahead and run the test. Pretty awesome. All right, let's do the test. Well, we did it, Rosie. The battle results are in, Steve. Are you guys ready to hear it?
Yes.
After days and days and hours of work, and I am not exaggerating, we have the battle results right here. I've got the 3 top winners. I've got the 3 losers and an honorable mention for you. And we're going to lay them all out so you can see everything in between as well. So here we go. We're going to start with the losers. Okay, so let me explain the losers, then we'll explain the winners, and then I'll give you the honorable mentions. I think that's a good rhythm to go through. And then at the very end, we'll do a parade. Yeah, we'll call it the Parade of the Battle Contestants. And we'll show you how they all came out in order from winners down to losers. And that should give you a good base of how I felt about them. Now, before I show you the final
battle results.
The battle results. Thank you, Steve. I do have to say that the numbers, the scale that we gave them, the star rankings, well, it was kind of it changed as we went along. And I went back and reevaluated a couple things because as I spent hours going through all of the testing, I kind of changed how I wanted to score them, especially one of the star rankings, and that was the word value. Now, the value, what I decided to do after conferring with Steve, what we decided, value means price, it means the packaging, it means what sets they were available in, it means were they available in open stock, how many stores are they available in, are they part of a good system that backs up these pencils, do they have a lot of colors available, did they perform well, and mostly would I recommend them to you as a colorist to other colorists. So all of those things put together was how I ranked that particular part of the star system. Okay, so again, as we've said before, this is all very, what's the word?
Subjective.
Very subjective. So it's just my recommendation to you. You may feel differently about all of these pencils. Comment below. Do you think I should have ranked some of these pencils differently? Was there a brand or a particular watercolor pencil that you wish I had included in the Battle of the Pencils? Comment below. I would love to know. Okay, let's get to it. The 3 losers. Here they come. All right, so I promised to show you the 3 losers first. So I've got the number 1. Biggest loser. So this comes in at 25. Technically, we did 26 in the battle of the watercolor pencils, but 2 of the top ones we put together. You'll find out why in just a minute. So number 25, the lowest in our scoring, came in the South Sun Guanghai Hero brand. So this ended up being our cheapest, or least expensive, was the lowest rating of our pencils. So it kind of makes sense. In the art world, usually you get what you pay for, but you'll see. The most expensive didn't come in at number 1, so that's kind of interesting. So I've got Steve here with me. He can give me his opinion too as we go along. So this has 150 pencils in it, and so that's pretty cool. You get a lot of colors, had a plastic case. Here's its final worksheet right here, and you can kind of see, and you'll see when we get to the winners, the difference in the payoff of color. The other problems that we had was that they weren't fun to color with, you guys. The dry, when you color with them dry and swatch them, the blending, all of it was hard. It was really difficult to work with them. It was hard when you hit them with water. You had to scrub with the brush to get the binders to release. It was just no fun. It was just no fun. So I can't recommend these to you, even though there's so many colors in this set and it's such a good value as far as cost per pencil. It was a really good price. I was really cheering for them, but no, I can't recommend them. They came in last. So let's look at the second to last, or number 24 in the rank. This was a surprise. I was shocked by this one.
I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, and disappointed. It's a Derwent product, you guys. Derwent usually comes in for us and does really well, but no, they came in at second to last. Number 24 was Derwent. So we have a nice little 12 set here, and you look at the colors. I mean, the payoff was a little bit better than our really, really cheapos, but not a whole lot better, you guys. That's pretty sad.
The cheapest blended better dry.
Yeah, so that's where I was really, really disappointed in Derwent's. Was, again, we're testing this from a colorist perspective, and one of the things we do as colorists is we blend dry, and that's why we had this number 5 test right here, was blending and layering dry, and it was literally impossible. By the time I got down here at the 3rd layer, it would not let me layer anymore, and this was the only one that it was absolutely impossible to layer. So it had to be scored low.
Yeah, well, and they didn't blend wet either.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're sad.
They just, yeah, I don't know, because you'll see Derwent is also in the top. so it's kind of weird that they scored in both the bottom and the top.
Yeah.
So, all right, sorry, Derwent. Okay, now this is also, I was kind of surprised by this.
Yeah, me too.
The 3rd to the bottom was number 23, the Aqua Blend by Spectrum Noir. Now, I love the packaging. I love the concept of the Aqua Blend by Spectrum Noir. They have these in sets where you can get like a flower set and a landscape set and a portrait set. So the concept behind these are really smart. This was their primaries set, so you get, a good, reds, yellows, greens, and blues. I love the design of
them and everything,
Yeah, but
cool.
Look, I've got 2 shorties here, and why? They continually break on me, and it's the wood is splitting on them. The cores are breaking. I know it's not my fault because I take care of my pencils like they are my children, literally. So they're breaking. The color payout is pathetic. I'm sorry. I don't like to speak ill of anything or anyone, but this is pathetic. The color payout, this blend was decent. I got a decent blend, but I had to fight to do it because the pencil broke multiple times. Now, if you skipped to the end of this video to hear the results, you may want to go back because I talk about what to do when you have a water-soluble pencil break, what to do with those tips and cores that break. So go back and check that part out and you'll get a little tip on that. So sad, very sad. So there's a whole bunch of pencils here in the middle, and we do a parade of watercolor pencils at the end of this video so you can see who ended up in the middle. But let's talk about the top 3, and we're going to start with number 3 and tell you, now this one was a surprise, and I'm so excited about this one because it's a really good priced one. I'm not showing you any of the other ones first. Let's start here. So this is number 3, you guys. A surprise. Now we've seen General's brand. They make erasers, they make pencils, they make quite a variety of things. And I actually, the first time I ever used these pencils was from my mom. I never told Steve this, but she has a very small set of these, and I tried them, and that's when I first was like, ooh, okay, watercolor pencils are interesting. Tried them a little bit and never had tried them again, and then we bought them for the Battle of the Watercolor Pencils. Look how cool the box is. Very interesting. They're made in USA. They have a few different configurations of how you can buy them. I've seen them in Hobby Lobby and Michael's, and then you can get them on Amazon, not sure where else. So they're kind of available in multiple places, which is part of why it's scored pretty high on the value scale. And look at the color payoff. I mean, it's quite exciting, and they blend beautifully. Look at how they broke down. They break down really easy when you hit them with water. And I mean, the cost at 67 cents a pencil, that's really exciting. So I'm excited to be able to recommend a brand that is relatively inexpensive. This is really exciting. So yeah, this is one I would say, if you're in the market, put this one in your basket because this is a really surprise. I'm excited about this one. Okay, number 2. I don't think anyone's going to be too surprised that these guys made it into the top here. The beautiful Derwent Inktense. Now, I don't have an actual case because, like I said earlier in this video, I have purchased these open stock, and then a whole bunch of them have been donated to me by some of my awesome followers. So that's how I've ended up with the full set of the Derwent Inktense. Now, also earlier in the video, we talked about how these are technically not watercolor. They fall into the specialty water-soluble category. But you can't have a discussion about watercolor, water-soluble pencils without including the mighty Inktense pencils, because they are amazing. Look at this color. Now, I'm going to do a quick side-by-side between these guys and our bottom guys. I mean, look at, I don't know if that even, look at the colors, you guys. These are just like so much fun. You hit them with water and they almost explode with color. It's so much fun to play with, especially on watercolor paper. We sell watercolor paper coloring books and swatch books and stuff. And so if you've never played with watercolor, especially Inktense pencils on watercolor paper, I highly recommend you get your hands on some and try it.
Yeah.
It's amazing and fun. So yeah, they totally earned their spot, and they work like watercolor. So even though technically they're not watercolor, you're still going to be able to do a lot of the watercolor effects and have a lot of good fun with them. So let's talk about number one. Now, I tried to be super, what is it when you don't? Objective. Because, yeah, I wanted to make sure that whoever got number one really earned number one. And these guys really did earn number one. And secretly, I was hoping that a watercolor pencil would be just as vibrant as the Inktense and would beat out Inktense, and it did. I'm so excited. So you guys, it's the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer line, and we have two contestants for the Albrecht Dürer line. We've got the Magnus and the Standard. So let me show you. I already kind of showed the difference. So if you go back in the video where I was actually working with the Magnus, I showed the difference between the two, but I'll do it again real quick in case you're curious. So this is the Standard, looks like a normal pencil, same size and shape. And then this is what the Magnus looks like. So it's the same core, just bigger. It's magnified, Magnus. So this is the Magnus. They don't have it in as many colors, and they're more expensive, but you get more core, more stuff to color with, and it's really fun. And I thought maybe it would feel strange and maybe hard to color with, but it's actually really comfortable in the hand. I wish they had the entire line in the Magnus, because I would totally go full set syndrome on it and buy the whole thing in the Magnus. They're fun to color with. You can hold them on the side and do full, like, huge backgrounds really fast. I mean, they're really fun. Again, you need to come join the partners and learn how to use watercolor pencils. And I mean, these are just, and look at this really cool brush it came with. Really top notch, and the color payoff with the Albrecht Dürers is amazing. It's part of the Faber-Castell color system. They're open stock. They're available pretty much all over the world. Look at the color payoff, and you just touch it with water and the binders just relax and let the pigment go. I mean,
and the colors match the polychromos, and
there's just almost nothing bad to be said about these pencils. I love them. So I don't own the full set yet. I have only been buying them a little bit at a time. We have a tritone system where we have light, mediums, and darks picked for certain brands. And I have the light, mediums, and darks, all 36 of them, that match our tritone setup. So if you're interested in that, I'll have Steve put a link to the tritones system so you can learn about that. We have it for polychromos, we have it for the Albrecht Dürers, we have it for Inktense, we have it for Tombos, we have it for Prismacolors, we have them for a lot of different brands.
Artezas.
Yeah, and the Arteza. So that's 3 different water-soluble brands of pencils that we have the tritones all worked out for already, if you're interested in that. So Faber-Castell Albert Dürer is the official winner of the Battle of the Watercolor Pencils. And like I said, I tried as hard as I could to be as objective as possible. I didn't know it would be Albert Dürer. I wondered if Caran would come ahead.
I really thought those museum aquarelles.
I thought Caran would beat the Albert Dürers. I wanted to make the worksheets the way I did, because now they're going to be available on our blog and you can go look at them and kind of weigh your options. What's more important to you? Do you not care about 150 colors? Maybe something like these are totally sufficient for you. Maybe just 24 colors, you're good to go, and you order these and you're ready to go. Maybe you're thinking, I already own some polychromos. Maybe this whole buying into the Faber-Castell system is a good idea. So maybe the Albert Dürers are the way to go, and maybe just buying a few open stock is the way to go. So again, looking at these sheets and looking at the cost per pencil, are they available open stock? How did Jennifer feel when they were wet? How did she feel when they were dry? Maybe I don't care how they feel when they're dry because I'm a watercolorist and all I care about is how they feel when they're wet. So you would go and look at that. That's why I did such a detailed worksheet, because all of you are going to have different variables that are important to you. So now remember that if you would like a copy of this worksheet so you can test your own watercolor pencils, we've made it available to Bliss Colorists, Apprentice, and Partners. Looks like this. It might be slightly different because as I was working through it over and over and over, I did it in a little bit of a different order. So the numbers might be a little bit different, but you can watch me work through it and see how it's done, and it'll be basically like this. And you can put your own pencils to the test and see how you feel about it. You get the same results I did, slightly different. What's important to you? This worksheet will help you work through that. So that's why this is that important to me and why we spent so many hours doing it this way. So all this information will be ready on the blog. So now I'm going to cue the parade, and you can see all of them in a line, all the different brands I did, and you can see how they all came out in the order of winners to losers. So enjoy the parade. Here it comes. Okay, the parade of the battle contestants now begins, starting with the number one best, which is the Faber-Castell Albert Dürer, which we had two contestants. The standard, which are in this red one here, and the Albert Dürer Magnus watercolor pencils. Okay, up next at number 2 are the beautiful Derwent ink tints, which I only have open stock. There they are, the beautiful open stock. Thank you, Assistant Steve. He's helping me. Number 3 are the Generals Kimberly watercolor pencils. I have this cool box like that. Okay, next up, number 4 are the Winsor Newton Studio Collection. They're this really cool white pencils. Okay. Number 5, I only have 3 of them. They're the Kohinoor Hardmouth Mondelez. Probably butchering that name. I apologize, Kohinoor. Here they go. Okay, number...
I think it's Mondeluz.
Okay, what Steve said. Next one is the Derwent Graphitin. I'd open it up, but I have to keep it taped shut or the whole tin pops open. So, okay, after that comes in one of my honorable mentions, the Staedtler Carrot Aquarelles. That's these guys right here. Awesome set. And, we've got out of order here. Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't get these exactly right. Okay, then the Derwent Metallics. These guys right here.
And the reason those are out of order is because I sorted them so that the lowest price comes before.
They have the same score.
Same score.
Different price.
Lowest price beats higher price.
Right. So Caran technically is next because it's a little bit pricier. So Super Color Soft, which I actually really enjoyed coloring with these. It's just wet. They didn't do as well. So, okay, next as another Caran the Museum Aquarelle. They're really nice, fancy, And if you go back in the video, you'll see I did a little highlight on this box. Okay, after that comes Faber-Castell, the Gold Faber Aqua. So it's not their highest line, their next step down. Okay, then we have the Prismacolor watercolor pencils. Not a big fan of these, but they didn't do too bad, right in the middle. Okay, number 13 are the Bronzils. This comes with a brush when you buy this one, and you get the Aquarelle Bronzils. Okay, this is the Staedtler Ergosoft Aquarelle. I think I showed this case. I don't know if I did. I better show it real quick. These are those triangle pencils, but the case is pretty cool. Now that I'm undoing this, I don't think I did show this case, so I'm going to show you how this case works. Then you click it back on itself like that, and it stands up. Isn't that cool? So it becomes a little tripod. So I think that's pretty clever. We did give it a little extra points on that value line for the clever case. Okay. Then we come into the next Bronzil, which is the design line, and I did highlight this case. Go back and see how cool this case is earlier in this video. Really awesome case. Okay, and then number 16 was Crayola.
By the way, if they see stars different than numbers.
Yeah, just ignore the stars. We haven't colored them in yet. The numbers are accurate. The stars not so much. Okay. Next up are the Pentels. Right here. Not much to say. They just came right in at number 17. Okay, then we have number 18, which is, I kind of thought about making these an honorable mention because I had fun coloring with them. They're the Arteza Woodless. So they're fun to color with. Kind of feel like a mix between a crayon and a colored pencil. But yeah, they're washing out a little bit too much with water, so that's why they didn't score very high. Okay, next up comes Castle Arts. This was the 72 in a nice tin case. Okay, then at number 20 came in, ooh, again, this one right here, the Arteza Expert line. So they came in at number 20, nice big set. And then, because they are a little bit more pricey than the Arteza, came in the Color, and you do get a little brush with the Color set. Okay, and then number 22 are the Low Cornell. Yep. And then this one was a surprise to me that it came in so low, was number 23, the Aqua Blend by Spectrum Noir. Thought it would come in more in the middle, but it came in really low.
I think this is my biggest surprise.
Yeah, this one was a really big surprise to me too. Derwent, big name brand, came in at number 24.
So that means Derwent is number 2 and number 24.
Yeah, really big surprise. So number 24, Derwent Watercolor Pencils. Okay, so and then this is number 25, the South Sun, or most often you'll see it as the Guanghai Hero brand. Well, that's it. That's the battle of the watercolor pencils. I hope you enjoyed it. Which one was your favorite? Comment below. Which one did you hate the most? I'd love to know. And if you are ready to learn more about watercolor pencils, then you need to join the partners, because I am teaching all of you how to use these beautiful tools, and it's a colorist perspective of how to use watercolor pencils. I'd love to have you join us over there. And don't forget to check out the video description, because I have links to all of these tools that I have used today, and I want you to learn more about them from those links. And I also have a link to our blog over on coloringbliss.com, where we have a list of all of the winners and the losers and the order of how it all shook out. So if you want to see that, then make sure you come over to the blog. And while you're at it, hit that thumbs up to let me know you enjoyed the video, and subscribe, because we have more awesome content coming your way. I'm so glad you joined us, and Rose and I are so happy that you're here with us at Coloring Bliss, and I hope you have a wonderful, colorful, blissful day. Bye-bye, everyone.